Hello, 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 and welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the channel. I am going to be sharing this live, and I'm going to ask you all to do the same thing. I want to make sure everyone is hearing this okay, because we have a very important update for you all concerning the couple in Colorado. A lot of people have been sharing their story here lately. They're starting to get some news coverage, and just a number of different things are going on with this situation. So we wanted to bring you a very, very important update. There's a reason why I'm calling it shocking, because of some of the information that we're going to be sharing. Some people seem to be shocked by it. Okay. Just bear with us one moment here. Just want to get this live shared, and I want you all to do the same. Share it as well. It's amazing when these things start to happen, and they make waves in the news. Details just come flying out all over the place, right? They come flying out all over the place. Okay. And I am going to bring you an update that I believe should be brought. Sometimes we have a problem as a people
if you're a homeowner
on how to analyze things.
You're still paying for your electricity.
So,
and I've got some big
I'm just sharing this. I want you all to share it as well.
Ago,
the details I'm going to be sharing, they are, disturbing, but at the same time, you have to be one of those kind of people who look at every element. Okay, every element.
But taking our 27-second solar quiz,
now join us live. That's the information I'm sharing on other platforms. I want you all to do the same.
Not even the best part.
Okay, someone says video is playing in the background. Let me check that out and see what that's all about.
This program is $0
let me know if
that's right. You won't pay a penny
it's corrected. Let me know, family, if it's corrected. If it is corrected, I will continue on. I think I see what the issue was right up front. I had the desktop audio and the mic on. Let me know if that was corrected, and then we shall continue. Thanks, family. Thank you. All right. So we're going to dive into this. So I want to preference. Hold on one second. I want to preface this video by sharing some of the updates and how I feel about some of the things that the press conference brought out about the Mallory's situation. I want to preface the whole video before we dive into this, before we share the press conference, before we share any of our opinions. I want to make it very clear where we stand, okay? And anyone following this channel knows that we stand on the truth, and we stand on reality. I'm going to say reality because a lot of times the world presents things to us that are not always reliable, if you know what I mean. I can remember news stories back in the day where they presented it in such a way to where most people, they just took the official story and they ran with it, right? And I'm going to share one such story with you before I get into all of this. There was an incident where a young man has supposedly ran through some type of, he was supposed to pay at the train or bus or whatever, in this little thing, you put the coins in or whatever. I can't remember. I don't even know what it's called. But somehow the police got involved in this situation. And I'll put it to you this way. The young man ended up dead, right? But the police said that he had a gun, right? Now think about what I'm about to say to you for a minute. Now there was a building that was nearby that was roughly 3 or 4 stories high. He was on the ground. He was running from the cops, right? Of course, everybody was afraid for their lives. They were so afraid of this running black man. They claim he had a gun. He did not have a gun. But the way the cops dealt with that, they said that he threw the gun on top of the building. And I said, this young man has got to be Superman. if he was able to throw a gun all the way on top from the ground, y'all, from the ground, if he was able to throw that gun all the way on top of a 3 or 4 story building, I said, he must be Superman. A lot about their story that they were sharing didn't make sense. A whole lot of it just didn't make sense. But understand this, y'all. We've been seeing how this country deals with our people for so long that none of this comes as a surprise anymore. There's always this, oh, I was afraid for my life. I was this, I was that. You'll see a perfectly innocent young man sitting inside of his apartment, and the Amber Geigers of the world comes into the wrong apartment and says she feared for her life and takes his. But then you have even the judge embracing her and giving her her own personal Bible because she felt sorry for her because of the tears. So I'm going to get into this story. Some things that I'm going to share with you all about this. Nicole Mallory, her interactions with police have people questioning this whole thing. Now, I'm going to bring you all my perspective for sure. You know you're going to get my perspective on it. Okay? But I want to say this much. I'm going to say this to Black people. This is not just about Nicole Mallory, but this is period. And if she just so happens to hear this, I hope she can take something from it. Okay? When you are in the land of your captivity, as the Bible said we would be, you have to use wisdom when dealing with people who the Most High said were going to be a certain way towards you in the lands of your captivity. You have to use great wisdom when dealing with people who it was prophesied were going to have a perpetual hatred for you. Brother Yehuda mentioning what they did to a double amputee in Louisiana, or I'm sorry, in LA. There was another guy, and I don't know if it's the same story, but there was a guy who was in the wheelchair who couldn't even hobble after them. They took his life because they were so afraid. So anyway, I want to get into this story. As far as the Mallorys go, the way you present yourself to the media, I want you to understand something, especially in this country. Anything you say can and will be used against you. Let me say that again. This is to Nicole Mallory and anyone else who is a so-called Black person in this country. Anything you say can and will be used against you. Y'all hear what I'm saying? So there's some video I'm going to show you. They actually released some video of Nicole Mallory. And in the video, she was very loud and very angry. And she was very troubled and impressed because of the situation. Okay. And right now there are people who are using her actions and being loud and what some call irrational to say that we need to take a step back from this. So, when a person acts and behaves a certain way, you have to know that there are going to be consequences in the land of your captivity. But that does not nullify. Let me say this very loud and clear. That does not nullify the clear and present danger against this family. I wanted y'all to know that up front, that I don't agree with behavior that will make you look bad. I just don't. But at the same time, I don't think we need to take a step back from this. I think we need to take a closer look at this. And so I'm going to share with you all the press conference, and I'm going to point out things that are not being said and things that are being said. Okay. All right. That's right. Truth be told, it's a tactic or a push to make you act. So look, sometimes stress, you know what? What's a trip? I just shared with you all an article. Before I did this, there was an article that was talking about how racism makes you sick. It makes you sick physically. It can make you deathly ill if it goes unchanged. The stress of it all. Ain't that something? And so I want to share with you all the press conference for a very real reason, because already some people are using the press conference to say, see, told you, it was more to it. Hold on one second, y'all. Somebody's at the door. How can I help you, young lady? I'll deal with that later, sweetheart. I'm broadcasting right now. All right. Okay. That's right. But Karens act out all the time, right? Many times that there is no type of repercussions for it. Some of them get all up in the cop's face and all kinds of things, right? That's right. This is called gaslighting. I agree with you. Some of you may have already seen the press conference, but I'm going to share it with you here too, because I want you all to pay attention. See, sometimes things happen because our people are not spiritually discerning things. They can right away jump on the side of the people that the scripture tells us are our enemies. Oh, come on now. Jillian, thank you very much. Jillian Carter says it kind of reminds her of the wife's reaction on the series Them. That is a good comparison right there. When you have been pushed to the brink, when you have been treated in such a way, it can make you sick. It can make you respond a certain way. This woman, the woman in the movie, the series Them, she was so bothered by all of this torturous behavior that she literally snapped. And so I've seen some of our people already trying to say that Nicole Mallory, they're giving her a medical diagnosis saying, well, maybe she has PTSD, maybe she's crazy, maybe she's this, maybe she's that. I've seen all of that. And most of the people saying this have not been in this particular type of situation. Okay, they haven't been in this particular type of situation. Of course, most of us, or many of us, have experienced some racism, some more than others. I've experienced quite a bit of it. Okay, my husband and I, we've experienced some of this, what they've gone through, but not to this degree. But we've had the white neighbors rolling by, middle fingering you or calling you the N-word or saying this, that, and the third. We had some show up at our property. And I told you all how my husband handled these two guys who showed up, who pretended like they needed their car had broken down, right? This is one of the tactics that I heard that the Mallory said was used for them too. People pretending like their vehicles was broken down. Okay, before I get too deep into this, I want to go ahead and share the press conference with you all, because I want to show you what they've been showing the world, and I want to talk about what is not being talked about here. And one thing that I'm going to jump ahead to, okay, I'm going to jump ahead to the part, you'll hear it at the end, but one of the reporters at the press conference actually asked them, what about Gerhardt, the one officer that the husband kept talking about, who he felt like was in cahoots with white neighbors. Now, during that press conference, they shut that part down. They didn't even want to expound on it. They said, well, I'm going to be handling it from here. No, Gerhardt will not be attending this press conference. He will not be. If you have any other questions, you can speak with me. So right away, that was suspect to me. I was saying to myself, why don't you want him to face the questions to address the things that were said about him and his participation as an officer of the law? Why didn't you all want to let him address his part in all of this? So anyway, let's get into this, y'all. Our people think automatically, just because some folk get on the news and they say, and the cops say that this is our side of the story. They even brought up the Ark Republic, which appears to be a black news outlet, or at least run by blacks. They even brought up the fact that the Ark Republic didn't get their side of the story. And so I want to say this too before sharing this press conference with you guys. How many times have a black person's side of the story not been heard? Now all of a sudden they want to say, oh, they didn't share our side of the story before they printed all of this. This is tripping me out, especially with the number of black people that I've seen because of that press conference jump all over this and say, see. Okay, see what? See what? Let's get into this, y'all. Let's get into this. The truth is not a one-sided thing. It's amazing to me that people think the truth comes out when officers come forth. Because the people have spoken, because the white officers and the news media and the black officers and the people who are on the other side of this, because they come forward, you're saying that the truth has come out now? My thing is this. In this, you're going to see where Nicole Mallory made some major mistakes. And we're going to point those things out. But that does not nullify the other things. It doesn't nullify the other things. Most of what I saw in this press conference, it seemed like the police officers were defending their position and their interactions with the Mallorys. But I didn't see a whole lot of, just very little addressing of what the Mallorys talked about their neighbors doing. Now, they did address some of it, but the Mallorys gave some great details about what some of their neighbors have done. And that's the part that I'm not seeing them talk enough about, because you can't just talk about your interaction as law enforcement with these people. You also have to talk about all of these neighbors that they were talking about. And I'm going to talk about that easement thing as well. Okay. I want to talk about that as well, because there are some misunderstanding that people have, and they automatically jump on the side of our oppressors. Now, I cannot side with lies if the Mallorys have told lies. Okay, I cannot side with that. But neither will I sideswipe the fact that there is something going on in that community that I don't believe law enforcement is being 100% honest about. Okay, let's get into this. So I'm going to be playing the press conference, and I'll cut in between so that I could address certain things that I feel need to be addressed. Because again, I feel like our people need to have a fair and balanced approach when looking at things, right? Initially, we only had the Mallory side. So I'm thankful to see the other side of this, but the other side, seeing this does not nullify what these people have gone through. It doesn't. I'm sorry. A lot of people think that they've revealed the smoking gun. There it is. I'm sorry, that is not enough. What they've shown in this is not enough to say that these people were not themselves being stalked. Okay? Stalked, or that these people have not been harassed. Okay, I can understand the law presenting their side, but what about those neighbors? All right, so let's get into this. I'm going to be popping in and out with you guys as I share this. So the first 4 minutes appears to be some dead space. So I am going to get past that bit of it. Okay, the first 4 point. Okay, so we're going to start right here. Let you all take a listen at that. Okay, so are you all hearing this okay?
Good afternoon. My name is Vernon Stewart. I'm the Communications Executive Director for El Paso County. Today's press conference is regarding the events that have transpired regarding Courtney and Nicole Mallory, the owners of Freedom Acres Ranch, their neighbors, and actions taken by the El Paso County Sheriff's Office. There have been many media reports and a lot of social media activity surrounding this topic. Our hope today is to be as completely transparent as possible about the events that brought us here today, while upholding the integrity of any ongoing investigations. El Paso County Board of County Commissioner Lojinos Gonzalez will provide some comments, as this is his district. Thereafter, El Paso County Sheriff Joe Roybal will give an overview, and Lieutenant Gonzalez will be offering a detailed briefing on this matter today. As stated, to protect the integrity of ongoing investigations, we cannot discuss or provide details on any cases that may be ongoing at this time. Following the briefing by Lieutenant Gonzalez, we will follow with a brief Q&A. At this time, I'd like to introduce El Paso County Board of County Commissioner District 4, Lojinos Gonzalez. Commissioner.
There has been confusion within our community regarding a dispute between neighbors in eastern El Paso County. The situation has created unnecessary tensions between our community and our neighbors, which is regrettable. We are committed to the safety and rights of everyone in our community. We have a responsibility to transparency and the truth. I am personally committed to transparency and truth, not just in this matter, but in all matters regarding our community. The public has the right to know all the facts about this case. That's why we're here today, to ensure the public keeps its faith and confidence in its county representation. We also ask all residents to work together to resolve conflict and find peaceful resolutions. I would like to now introduce Sheriff Joe Roybal.
Thanks, Commissioner. Good afternoon, and thank you for being here. I'm El Paso County Sheriff Joseph Roybal. I had the distinct pleasure and responsibility of serving the citizens of El Paso County as a sheriff and leading the sheriff's office in Colorado's most populous county. As you know, there has been recent attention given to a series of online articles published by the ARC Republic. With the first article published on January 16th, the article garnered interest with some media outlets and social media interests. Courtney and Nicole Mallory, who are the residents in eastern El Paso County, were featured in these articles, which detailed the Mallory's account to the author. The article largely described what the Mallorys perceive as racially motivated attacks by their neighbors against them, their animals, and their property, as well as accusations of racial discrimination against them on the part of the Sheriff's Office employees. Misinformation and the mischaracterization of my office and my employees has led to a level of uneasiness for many residents of Yoder and some members of my staff and family members who have been specifically targeted. Misinformation is greatly mitigated with balanced reporting when an article is published. The first article by the ARC Republic was done without comment from my office. The author has publicly stated she attempted to speak with the representative from my agency regarding
I wanted to pause for a moment and talk about how they're saying that there's some type of threat that has been kind of spoken or implied. I want to talk about that because when you say that, you're saying that because of this article, this is what's happening. Now, there have been many times where things have been said about black suspects to make them appear dangerous, right? And because of that, it causes other people to respond a certain way. And you haven't proven a thing. And so they're trying to say that because of the ARC Republic's reporting of this story, that has somehow put them or their families in danger. And so we see it happen all the time in this country, that black people are constantly facing dangers and fears from things that they have said. Okay? Things that they have said. Another thing that I wanted to say was this. I wish that they can use all of this technology that they have to trace some of these threats that they say they have coming in. Okay, how did the threat come in? Was it a phone call? If so, can it be traced? If it was an email, can it be traced? Because I mentioned this before. As a matter of fact, I had said to any so-called black person who was talking about or dealing with this case that you shouldn't say anything that can be incriminating to you, right? Not at all. Now, someone says I'm echoing. I apologize for that. I don't know why that's happening. Okay. Is it really, really bad, family? Or is it doable? So anyway, I was saying that we need to refrain from saying anything too strange, because anything you say can and will be used against you. It can and will be used against you. All right. And so that being said, you have no way of knowing who's actually making phone calls, who's actually sending threats, because just like they used to do in these so-called riots or protests, you would have provocateurs who would try to make things seem worse than what they are. And so I would say to them, I mean, they're law enforcement. I would think that they would know this. Can you trace these threats? Can you trace these calls or emails, whatever it is, so that the people can know where they're coming from? Because to just say that they're being threatened, that's making the situation feel or seem a lot worse than what it is. That's just my take on it. So anyway, I want to go ahead and continue showing this for you guys, because anything you say can and will be used against you. And of course, we know that this system is made to stack evidence against you. Okay? Stack it against you. This is why you can't give them anything. This is why I say about the actions you're going to see from Nicole Mallory. She should have toned it down. Definitely. Because if you get loud and belligerent, you can trust and believe that they are going to use that against you. But I've seen white men, white women, all kinds of people who curse the police, who do all kinds of things, and they still don't treat them the same way that they treat you. They're not going to get the same treatment. You can't do what they do. It doesn't matter if you're from the military and you serve this country, you are not going to get the same treatment. So all of that, I'm going to call it drama. That's what a lot of people were calling it. Okay. Now, I can't speak as to whether or not you're going to see where she was saying that it felt like they broke her arm or whatever. She said it felt like it. Now, it's quite possible they didn't break it, but that doesn't mean the woman wasn't in pain. Okay, so I'm watching and looking as people are trying to make it seem as though, because of all the yelling and the screaming that she was doing, that she's doing too much. What if she was in pain? What then? All right. Okay. I'm going to get into that property dispute thing for Truth Seeker. I'm going to get into that because of that easement issue. That easement issue, as a matter of fact, I'll actually wait to get into it when that comes up in this press conference. I want to explain that that easement issue, especially if it's a public access road, okay? A property that we own have an easement on it, okay? And we're going to talk about the shots fired too. That's why I'm also going to go through the press conference so you all can hear for yourself. But I still want you all to understand what we are seeing here, okay? Just because they may have acted a certain way, a little bit over the top, as some of you may say, that doesn't change the fact that something has gone wrong, okay? BG says she was fed up and she just exploded. Okay, I can see that. And I shared years ago incident that a black guy had in Missouri years ago. He was a property owner, and he was being taunted and taunted and taunted, something awful. And in his situation, they were laughing at him. He was coming to meetings, to council meetings and all kinds of things, or the community meetings where they allow you to speak. And this guy was coming. He was a businessman doing very well for himself, right? He was an older guy in the 60s. And so he was an upstanding, tax-paying citizen. And they were having a dispute with him on some of his construction vehicles that were parked on his own land, right? because of some complaints from neighbors. And so he kept going and talking and trying to reason with them. He said they would laugh at him, heckle him, and just treated him like he was a non-issue. Some of you all may remember this story. What ended up happening is he came to this meeting one day. He was at his wit's end. They had racked up bills so high as liens on his property. All of the fines that he had incurred from the city totaled over $600,000. Y'all hear what I'm saying? $600,000. And he went before them one last time and tried to reason with them. And they heckled and laughed this man. And he snapped. He snapped, y'all. It was a town hall meeting. Thank you to the person who put that in the chat. That man snapped. They had gotten so just messed up with things. He went to that town hall meeting and snapped. He took some lives, and his life was taken as well. It was a terrible situation that things got that far. And some of you all, you've never been in a situation like that to where someone is threatening your life, your livelihood, fining you $600,000 for some bogus stuff. I'm not condoning what this man did at all. I'm not in a position to condone that. I'm just telling you what happened. He snapped. There was a white man who something similar happened, and I shared the video maybe a couple of months ago, okay, where something similar happened to him, and he built a tank, y'all, and he went through that town and he destroyed so much property it wasn't even funny. With that man-made tank, they couldn't even stop him because he had bulletproof everything all over that tank, right? And so for those of you who are looking, okay, you're looking at the fact that Nicole Mallory just cut up and she was acting a certain way, and you want to say, so now the truth is coming out because it's being presented by these people? Brother Raphael pointed out that they put a black face up there first, then that black face presented, they called that guy Killdozer. That's right. But they put that black face up there first, and then they put the Mexican or Latino face or what up there afterward. If you don't realize that there are tactics used in situations like this, then maybe you should go back to the drawing board and get a better understanding of the kind of people we're dealing with. Of course, again, I acknowledge that this woman, when I looked at the press conference, she made some major mistakes. You can't deal with your enemies without wisdom, because they are not going to look at your tears, your crying, your screams, your yells. They don't look at that and take any kind of sympathy on you. Because of the loudness of it, they use it against you. Okay? So anyway, let's get back to this story. I want you all to hear some more of it. Take a look. Take a listen.
These allegations, we have no record of such call. None of my command staff, my public information officers, nor I were ever contacted, despite the fact that our phone numbers and email addresses are easily found in our public website. Attention to this situation escalated on February 6th when Courtney Mallory was arrested during a traffic stop by the Colorado State Patrol for an active warrant. A fact misrepresented by the ARC in their article dated on February 7th when they stated Mr. Mallory was taken into custody by El Paso County deputy sheriffs. Portions of the arrest were live streamed by Nicole Mallory. I'd like to clear up the topic of Mr. Mallory's bond related to this arrest. Some members of the media and other local groups tried to imply he was held improperly on a no-bond hold in my jail following this arrest. The warrant itself had a $2,000 bond indicated. However, at the time of booking, my intake staff realized a $2,000 bond was inconsistent with state statute. Based on the stalking charge for which he was being booked. Stalking was one of 3 charges listed on the warrant. My staff notified the courts, who confirmed the error error and in turn sent the jail an updated copy of the warrant indicating a revised no bond in accordance with state law. Since the time of Mr. Mallory's arrest, my office has received numerous emails and calls with people voicing concern
Okay, so they admitted that they made some mistakes in the paperwork. Okay. They made some mistakes in the paperwork. Okay, thanks for admitting that mistake. Okay, it has something to do with bond, but my thing is this: what does it have to do with the ugliness of all of this, right? Because there was a mistake made. They're referencing again how things were reported by the Ark Republic. Now, again, we have seen so many times where people have put out news stories or information about situations dealing with black suspects, and they do not put that stuff out right. They put it out in a way to make you think or believe that the person is guilty before they even get charged. Okay? We've seen where they will, like in the case of the little 9-year-old girl, he reported her as a woman. She's 9 years old. And they reported her as a woman. A little black woman. Okay, and so I also wanted to talk about some of these arrest warrants. Okay, they were claiming that the Mallorys were stalking people. Okay, so this is sounding tripped out to me. Now, the Mallorys said that they claimed that they had been stalked as well, and that people had pointed weapons at them. You're going to hear what they're going to say, that there's been over 177 calls or more dealing with these people. Okay, dealing with the Mallorys and with their neighbors. All of these calls. So what is all of this about? They give you some details on what came of 12 of those calls, but there are over 177. So I want to point out the things that they are not talking about. Everyone wants to point out. I've noticed a lot of people who are covering this. They're putting a lot of focus on Nicole Mallory's actions, on how she was acting, how she was dealing with the police, how she was dealing with the guy who came onto her property. Okay, the guy who came onto her property, he did have a legal right to be there, but you have to understand something. When you're in a situation where people are driving by your property, making threats, making racial intimidation moves towards you, the cops are going to tell you that this guy was a private citizen. They let you know that he was a private citizen, but he was serving papers, right? So she's a woman. She comes out in her, she was in the shower. I'm going to let you all, I'll actually get back to that when they play it during this press conference here. I want to talk about it then, but I wanted you all to understand the state of mind these people are in. The Mallorys, they are on guard right now. Okay? They are on guard. And I wanted you all to pay attention to that, because there's a lot that's not being said. They're focusing on how they feel about things. But I didn't hear enough talk about these neighbors and this racial intimidation. Not enough talk about that at all. So let's get back into it, family.
With how we have handled the Mallory situation over the last 2 years and voicing concerns about racism and property rights, callers being unaware of the facts of our involvement, which is largely why we are here today. Of larger concern about the emails and calls are the threatening tone some have taken. People have threatened damage to our facilities and threatened violence towards my staff. In some cases, family members of staff. Let me be clear, no family member of my staff is connected to our calls for service or investigative efforts concerning Mr. and Mrs. Mallory, or the specific cases which you will hear about today. The threats and accusations are examples of the damage which can be done when misinformation gets ahead of the facts. In a few moments, you will hear from Lieutenant Chris Gonzalez, who will provide a higher level of detail as to the Sheriff's Office involvement with the Mallorys, as well as the residents in the Yoder area over the past couple of years. But here are some general facts important for you to know. Between 2021 and 2022,
Okay, I wanted to step in real quick here. What is okay? Maturity. We are going to let everyone listen to what Nicole Mallory said. Okay, we're going to point all of those things out. What I want you all to understand, everyone is entitled to their opinion on all of this. We don't support any of the foolishness or mess that they are doing. Okay. As far as how they responded to these people who came on their property. When they talked about the interaction with the guy, she said that she didn't fire off the weapon, and it sounded like a weapon did fire off. Okay, so I'm not with that. But I don't want us as so-called black people to get so caught up in the woman's actions to where we just nullify all of the other stuff that happened. Because I want to spend more time, too, talking about the dead guy. The guy who worked for them, right? In this press conference, they're going to mention that very briefly, and they're going to scoot right on past that, right? And so they're focusing more on the threats against them and the threats against their facility, and they said some threats against their families. Again, I pointed out, who were these threats coming from? They're including that in the press conference, but it has nothing to do with the Mallorys. The Mallorys didn't put these threats out. If they are saying that the Mallorys put, that's one thing, but they're saying that they're getting calls and emails from people who are supporting the Mallorys. And so anyone could be sending these calls and emails. And I would say to them that they need to use their technology to trace this stuff. Okay? We have to understand, and that's right, Marooned Warrior. Marooned Warrior said she was probably firing a warning shot because they said she had a shotgun. If she was aiming at him, it probably would have hit him. Okay. Now, for me personally, I don't think that was a good idea. Don't even fire the warning shot. But in her mind, like someone said, she's probably fed up, right? Because there was not enough focus put on the guy who worked for them, who was shot in the back of the head. Mr. Mallory said that he wondered if the bullet was for him. There was not enough information put out. All this focus put on the Mallorys, but what about that? So if you are in a situation where somebody done lost their life and your neighbors are threatening you, but the cops are treating it like it's not a big deal, this woman was on guard, and if you can't see that, then I don't know what to say. Now, the one thing you don't do, and this is for Nicole Mallory, if she ever sees this, if you fired the weapon and you say that you didn't, with people, you lose credibility if you say that you didn't, but you did. Why not just tell the truth and say, look, I was scared because our ranch hand was killed. Y'all still ain't solved that problem. Y'all still ain't solved that case. Just tell the truth. That's how I feel about it. Because when you are dealing with this system, like I said early on in this broadcast, anything you say can and will be used against you. Y'all understand what I'm saying? So, one thing you're going to notice as you listen to this broadcast and this press conference, they are going to put very little time talking about that. They put all of the focus on how this woman was acting. So she gave them plenty. She gave them the ammunition that they needed to make her look really, really bad. Okay? When she was talking about her arm, you're going to see that part too. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say she wasn't in pain, but for her to respond in the way that she was, I would have toned it down. That's just me, okay? I would have toned it down. I remember, let me tell y'all this, and I'm going to get back to the press conference. But they don't care about our screaming and our hollering. I remember when I was in the hospital having my daughter Sophia, this doctor, she was hurting me so badly. I felt like this woman was trying to kill me. So she was a white female doctor. There was a white male doctor in there as well. And this woman was, I felt like she was torturing me. Okay. And this was only during a physical examination. Now, my husband will testify, and so will the white male doctor will testify that I was being very calm in my interaction with her. I didn't scream at her. I didn't yell at her. I didn't hit at her. I didn't do anything. I was only screaming in pain, right? And this woman looked at me, and I don't know, I didn't know Karens existed back then. Sophia's 22 years old, okay? But she says, Tamiko, I'm not going to let you hurt me. That's exactly how she responded to me. And me and my husband and that doctor looked at her like she had a demon rise up in her, because I wasn't doing anything to try to hurt her. My pain was me crying out, and I didn't reach for her. I didn't reach towards her. I didn't say anything to her. All of that. Okay. And so we are going to get into all of the things as we go through this. We're going to show the interaction with her and the guy who came on her property, all of that. Okay. Okay. So anyway, let's get back into it. I want to go bit by bit so I can address each point that they're making here, and be very, very clear on my stance on this, because sometimes we just get out of balance when they present information. We just accept it for what it is. Okay.
The time frame during which the issues arose and has persisted, the El Paso County Sheriff's Office personnel have responded to over 170 calls for service involving several addresses near Yoder. Most calls associated with these addresses were regarding criminal allegations lodged between property owners in this area against each other, as well as calls regarding a property easement dispute. During the same time, our law enforcement personnel respond to over 200,000 calls for service overall in unincorporated El Paso County. Of those 170 calls for service, there were 24 case reports taken. In an effort to be transparent and let the facts speak for themselves, we will make available all case reports which are not associated with an active investigation following this press conference. There have been 4 custodial arrests made during this time frame. Arrests stem from complaints initiated by the Mallorys and complaints initiated by others. I recognize we are human and we can always strive to do better. To that point, approximately a week ago, I directed my staff to review all reports taken and ensure we have done everything we should have during our response to these calls. This review found 2 events where we as an office could have done more during our investigation. Those 2 cases have been reactivated to ensure we work them more completely. One of these cases lists the Mallorys as the victim. Those 2 reports are not included in the packets released today since they are reactivated at this time. Also during this time frame, there have been 19 specific personnel complaints sent into my office alleging employee misconduct. All of those were investigated in accordance with office policy. I want to ensure the citizens of El Paso County, we at the Sheriff's Office, take our oath seriously. We are charged with protecting the constitutional rights of all citizens. We are charged with protecting those rights, and I'm confident our actions and responses to the calls and complaints in the Yoder community have been objective and based on facts and law, not on race. No one would be more eager than I to rid my office of a deputy sheriff who was racist and treating members of the community unfairly based on race. The Sheriff's Office conducts purposeful, initial, and ongoing employee education to prevent.
Okay, I wanted to stop right here real quick. Because Gearhart is one of the ones that Mr. Mallory was talking about. You're going to see at the end of this where one of the reporters, again, asked, why was Gearhart not here to respond to what the Mallory said he had been doing? Okay, some of you may have heard what the Mallory said that he was doing. He was actually helping some of those citizens, right? to intimidate them, to do different things towards them. And their response when the reporter asked why wasn't Officer Gerhardt there, they said, well, Officer Gerhardt is not going to be here. He's not going to be present. Anything that you have for him can be directed towards me. Why wasn't he there? Because he would have had to answer for his own responses in this situation. But because he was shielded from this, how do we know? See, a lot of people are going to default to the side of police because, I'm sorry, y'all, but Nicole Mallory and her actions got a lot of people upset and second guessing things. And I'm talking about people who look like us. I'm all about the truth, y'all. And I don't feel like the Mallorys have done things 100% right. But I don't think that this bit of information, what they've done is they've condensed 2 years worth of interaction that these people are talking about down into a couple of hours of a press conference. Do y'all hear what I'm saying? They have a little press conference that's less than 2 hours. Do y'all hear what I'm saying? Press conference that's less than 2 hours. Wow. So 2 hours of racial intimidation. What about the dead animals? Now, they also said that someone used some type of red light technology to disable their cameras. I want to get into that easement thing once it gets to that point in the press conference, because a lot of people don't understand how that works. If it's a public access easement like that, other people can use it too. Certain easements are only open to a person who has access to land, right? But if other people are able to use that too, how do we know that these people weren't fearing for their lives? Are we going to say that 2 years of interaction with these people, they weren't afraid when neighbors coming by, neighbors pointing weapons at them, neighbors? Are we going to say that all that didn't happen just because law enforcement said that this woman acted this way or they acted that way? What if her actions had something to do with all of the intimidation? Okay? So let's get back into this, because I want you all to see when they actually interact with her and how she took things over the top, which could very well hurt how people are perceiving this whole thing. But at the same time, for me, it does not nullify their experience at all. Let's continue.
Bias-based policing on the part of our members, to recognize it if it occurs, and to report it, and to hold such behavior accountable if witnessed. Again, we take all allegations of crime and civil rights violations seriously. In closing, as a reminder, I have reached out to the Black and Latino Leadership Coalition more than a week ago.
They said hold that behavior accountable if witnessed. Okay. So in other words, their word against yours. That's what it boils down to.
Asking for their assistance in coordinating a meeting to address ongoing concerns brought forward by Mr. and Mrs. Mallory. Thus far, no progress has been made due to some reluctance on the part of the Mallorys. I am hopeful the Mallorys will give me an opportunity to address their concerns. After all, I am confident the residents in Yoder and those involved in this situation all want peace and to live their lives harmoniously. I will keep you informed of any progress made in this important effort. I now introduce to you Lieutenant Chris Gonzalez.
So he just spoke for all of the citizens of that area. He says all they want is peace. This country has a track record of only allowing that peace for certain people. We got to be realistic about this. Yeah, the Mallorys did have cameras on their property. They said someone red lighted those cameras to disable them. In one of our previous broadcasts, someone pointed out what that red lighting thing was, laser lighting. I'm not familiar with that, but someone pointed out that that's a military tactic to disable the eyes on your property. And so the Mallory said that that's what has happened to them, that someone was able to disable their cameras. And so a lot of what this press conference addresses is they're not addressing the concerns that were put forth in the Ark Republic article. They're trying to make it seem like the Ark Republic had no right to report on this story without talking to them first. Now, the Ark Republic said that they reached out to them. The sheriff's office said that they didn't reach out to them. Now, as to who's telling the truth on that, that part remains to be seen. But again, I've pointed out that many times they report on things without all the facts as well. And they will paint a so-called black person out to be a terrible individual. Come to find out, it turns out to be a lie. They have a track record of this. They have a track record. So this is some terrible stuff that's happening right now, but we're going to continue on. So this is some terrible stuff that's happening right now, but we are going.
I would first like to thank everyone for coming to this press conference to seek both the truth and a resolution to the issues facing all involved parties. I would like to brief you on some pertinent information that might help portray a more accurate understanding of the situation, as well as the events that
Did he just say all involved properties? And then he corrected himself and said parties. I just thought that was interesting, y'all. Property. Remember, one thing that the Mallory stated, that there were some of the white neighbors who came and said, I was supposed to be buying this property. And so they were a bit upset that these black people bought the property. I wanted to point that out, that he misspoke and said properties. That's just something that I pay attention to. All right, here we go.
that have transpired through today. I will be presenting a timeline of events and a description of these events, and a portion of my presentation includes body-worn camera videos of several of our personnel's prior interactions with Nicole Mallory. These videos are being used to counter specific claims and complaints publicly made against our personnel. All of these recordings will be available in their entirety after the press conference. The affected area is a rural ranch land in eastern El Paso County. It is comprised of parcels ranging anywhere from 40-acre plots to over 1,000 acres. The property belonging to Nicole and Courtney Mallory is a large parcel of over 1,000 acres. The other nearby parcels, including the Clark parcel, are closer to 40 acres. There is over 1.4 miles of land between the Mallory homestead and the Clark homestead. All the land between the two parcels is part of the Mallory family property. There is an easement dividing the Clark property and the Mallory property, which holds the only access to several ranch properties, including Clark's. The sole purpose of this easement is to provide property access to the adjacent landlocked properties. This is a photo of the easement in question. On April 7th, 2021, deputies responded to a menacing call for service at Nicole.
Okay, so I want to go ahead at this point and talk about the easement. Okay, the issue of an easement. Some of you keep saying you're hearing echoes, so I'm going to try to see if I can fix that. Let me know if this is better. I want to make sure that you can still hear and that I'm not turning it down too low. Okay. Hold on one second. Can you hear me okay? Before I get into this, I want to explain this easement thing a lot better. Okay. Every easement is not the same. Every situation is not the same. Years ago, we had looked at some property that had easement that was only good for the owners of the farm that was behind the land we were looking at, or people who were coming to do work on that land. So it wasn't a public access where anybody can just travel on that easement. But it made us very uncomfortable. We ended up not purchasing that property because it actually set, I mean, if you're out there on your porch and you're enjoying yourself, they can just come driving past and there's nothing you can do about it. Okay. So anyway, we decided against that one because we didn't want to have, we felt like that was an invasion of privacy for us, even though they had stated that the person would only be doing this twice a year during the planting season and harvest season. So we just kind of said, no, I just don't want this, don't like it. It was a very narrow, okay, it was a very narrow road or easement, but it was enough for us to say, no, I don't think so. So another property that we do have, okay, it has a public access easement. The deed shows that the road is on our property. As a matter of fact, it was pointed out to us, not this property here, but it's another property that we have. It was pointed out to us that we actually own that road, but it's a public access road that anyone can travel on to get from this point to that point. Where it's located is right off to the side, so we didn't care. We don't care one way or another. It doesn't bother us at all. But it does make it so if anyone travels on that road, they can be sitting there right beside the land, and it's like there's nothing you can say or do about it, right? And so I just wanted you all. Listen, King Leo, I'm talking about this because I want to explain what an easement is for those who don't know, okay? That there is more than one way to access land if it's a landlocked situation. I am explaining this so that there can be an understanding as to why all of these people are on their property. It looks like their easement is attached to several other people's property, okay? All right. And so if you don't want to hear this part, you are welcome to exit the building. Okay. You're welcome to exit. But in their case, their easement, it goes right through their property, but it's access to other people's land so that they can get on their land. Right. And I'm just saying that's a possibility, that this is what's possible out here with the easement. But also, sometimes it's just a private to where only one person can get on it, which is the owner of the property. You can't just go back there. Anyone can't just get on it. And so in their case, what they were saying about the easement on their property, they were actually saying that other people were just driving on it just to be driving on it, just to be able to say something to them. Okay? Just to be able to say something to them, or in their words, intimidate. And so these are the things that I feel like they are not spending enough time talking about in this press conference. We are going to see a lot of focus and effort put on trying to make Nicole Mallory look like she's unhinged. Okay? And this is why I say, family, anything you say can and will be used against you. So you cannot give them anything. You can't give them anything. All right. So let's get back into this.
Nicole and Courtney Mallory's residence. The investigating deputy is Michelle Reed, who is assigned to the Rural Enforcement and Outreach Unit. REO, as it is called, is a 6 deputy and 1 sergeant unit specifically tasked with handling calls for service in eastern El Paso County. The unit is tasked with livestock and ranch type animal complaints, general criminal activity, illicit marijuana cultivation, and homeless outreach. This is a highly trained, skilled, and well-regarded unit that has an excellent presence in eastern El Paso County. I'm going to show you the initial video taken by a process server who entered Nicole and...
I wanted to point out too that he's talking about this unit and what they cover. He's talking about all of these different things. I feel like it's fluff talk. It has nothing to do with their case either. Okay? So where's Mr. King talking about that? The fact that he's talking about things that doesn't have anything to do with their case. I feel like you're naming all of these things that this unit deals with as, in my opinion, to add more conversation. Like he threw that they deal with marijuana and stuff like that, or drugs or whatever. And so for some people hearing this, they'll say, oh, were they investigating them for drugs? They'll mishear things because so much extra words or vocabulary is being put into this. Okay? It's being put into this, and therefore some people kind of get confused with the whole conversation because of all the extra stuff they're talking about. So here we go. Let's continue on.
Courtney Mallory's property to serve Courtney Mallory with a civil process. The second video is the body-worn camera video from Deputy Michelle Reed and her contact with Nicole Mallory. Please be aware that the following videos, as well as all the videos, contain profane language and might be difficult for sensitive viewers.
This is an attempt to serve Courtney Mallory. We are at in Yoder, Colorado. Here's the gate. There's a locked gate, and the property is over there.
Okay, y'all be patient with me. This is something that I'm trying to put out here. I want you all to understand up front that they're going to indicate that this is a private citizen who is serving papers. Okay, just so you all know, he doesn't have official vehicle. They even said that he is a private citizen serving papers. This woman doesn't know that, but that still does not. I still don't condone that. Doesn't condone her actions. She needs to keep it tight. When you're involved in a situation like this, keep it tight. Don't give them anything. So again, if Nicole Mallory ever sees this or hears this, that's just my take on it. But just to make it clear, private citizen, unmarked vehicle, but she has no way of knowing that with all of the friction she's been having with her neighbors. At the point that this interaction happens, she doesn't know who that man is. And keep in mind, so much has happened over the past 2 years that they are not talking about in this press conference. Here we go.
Hello? Hello?
I wanted to address the statement about people saying that the Mallorys have lost credibility. I wanted to make a statement on that. As a matter of fact, I mentioned it early on in this broadcast that when you are in the land of your captivity, anything you say can and will be used against you. It doesn't matter if you whisper, if you speak too loudly. Anything you do, they're going to try to use it against you. And so what it does when we fly off the handle is treated differently than when they fly off the handle. That's one of the points that I'm trying to make here. But I made it very, very clear in the beginning that her flying off the handle and her behaving in the way that she did does not nullify what they have been through for the past 2 years. That was a major point that I made, that some people are trying to erase everything that they've gone through because they see these videos. That was the point I wanted to make, because I've seen a lot of people jumping on the bandwagon saying that these people acted a certain way and this is why this and that is why that. And a lot of people said the truth has finally come out. And I'm like, so you believe that the words of this press conference are the truth? Because of some of the actions that were portrayed by Nicole Mallory, this is why people are saying this. That's the only point I was trying to make here, that you got to be very careful when you're trying to get people to see your side of the story. Okay? Oh, I see what's going on. My voice is doubling up. Can you all still hear me? Can you still hear me? Okay, because I just turned this all the way down. Can you all still hear me? Can you still hear me? Okay, because I just turned this all the way down. Okay. Alrighty. Anyway, back to this whole story. Back to this whole story. That's the only reason why I pointed out them losing some credibility. I pointed that out because wait a minute. Okay, there we go. All right, family. I'm going to play the video for you. I just wanted to address what someone had said in the chat.
Hello, is someone in there? Freedom Ranch is...
What the fuck are you doing?
Hey!
What the fuck are you doing?
Listen, I have some legal documents.
Get the fuck off my property!
Hey!
Get the fuck off!
I'm
right
leaving!
now.
I'm leaving!
Get the fuck
I'm
out
leaving!
Of
I'm
here.
leaving!
Get the fuck out of
I'm
here.
leaving!
Get the fuck out of here!
I'm leaving!
Get the fuck out of here! You said that on
I'm leaving! I'm leaving! I swear to God! Relax! I'm leaving! I'm leaving!
She's unarmed. We're speaking with her. Code 4, you can clear the code.
Copy, you understand by first go?
Ma'am, how you doing? So I'm Deputy Reed with the El Paso County Sheriff's Office. The reason that we're out here is because we had a call, there was a weapon involved, and we're trying to investigate to figure out what's going on.
Okay, so I was over here and I didn't have any clothes on. I was watching the George Floyd and going to work on the computer. And the dog was barking and I heard, because I have those little big ears, I heard the breaking, but I thought it was men.
Gotcha.
So when I look out the window, there's a white male there.
Okay.
And I was like afraid. I came outside and I was like,
Recording mounted. Wi-Fi disconnected.
I didn't have clothes anymore. I put my pants on, but I didn't have a shirt on because I didn't know the person, and the gate is closed. It says no trespassing, but there was someone right outside of my window, so strange things happened. I didn't know if he was trying to rape me. I don't know. So I was like, give me some ID, and he just started running. So my dog started chasing after him, but he was just running and saying, I had some papers to leave here.
Okay, so right here I want to interject. She's explaining this is why I said the credibility thing as well. Okay, when she said something about rape, okay, I'm sorry, you're doing too much, and this is why some people say rape. She doesn't know, because this is a person who is a private citizen, as they're going to point out, but he's there on an official capacity. She doesn't know that. She's just coming out. She sees this man and she goes off, right? When they ask her about firing off her weapon, she says she didn't fire off a weapon. In a situation like this, I see someone says she may have panicked. Situation like this, if truth is in your mind at all times, you won't panic. You will just say, yeah, I fired it off because I'm afraid. You won't say that you didn't fire it off. This is what makes things a lot more difficult, because you're dealing with law enforcement and you all of a sudden start switching the events as they happen. Why not just say it how it happened? Say it how it happened. Because anything you say, this is what I meant when I said anything you say can and will be used against you. Anything you say can and will be used against you. So they're showing video from the guy where there was a weapon that sounded off in the background. And to me, it would have been a lot easier to simply say I was afraid. I didn't know what he was doing. I didn't know why he was there, but she added all of that extra fluff. And so this is why some people are questioning them at this point. But with all of this that they've been going through for the past 2 years. And Chava, she asked a very valid question. She says, why was the guy recording? Now, that's a good question, only because someone else had pointed out that the cops have had interactions with her, and they know that these people are already triggered. They're already on guard. One of their workers have been killed. So they're keeping their cameras rolling because they want this type of thing on camera, because they already know that that angry black woman thing is going to kick in. And guess what? It kicked in. They have it on tape. And now everything you say can and will be used against you. Some people are now going to forget about the dead animals. They're going to forget about the dead farmhand. They're going to forget about the people that were stalking them. They're going to forget about their cameras that were disabled. They're going to forget about all of that because, Nicole Mallory said she didn't fire off the weapon. Now, as far as the guy looking in her window, don't add that in there. If you didn't see him look, she may have seen him walk past the window, because I did see a window on the property there. She may have seen him walk past, but don't say he was looking in if he wasn't looking in. You understand what I'm saying? Because anything you say can and will be used against you. This is why I like to say keep it tight and keep it right. Just tell the truth. Because your story is making national headlines right now. It's now making, but one thing I wanted to say too about the national headlines, it took a black reporter reporting on what they've been trying to get law enforcement to deal with for a long time. No one would know about this story if they didn't get the black reporter to share their side of the story. Because I'm going to tell y'all something. Those who are already turned against this woman, right? We don't agree with the lies. We don't support the lies. We don't condone the lies. The lies hurt you, right? But I want you all to understand something. If the Ark Republic had never told their side of the story, do you think the mainstream media would have even said anything about all of this? It wasn't until the Ark Republic put their story out that other people started talking about it as well. That's when it started getting some attention. Or did you all pay attention to that? Everybody's focusing on how she reacted, but they're forgetting about all of that other stuff. I would like to see them do a press conference on that dead farmhand. Y'all going to hear them talk about that in the press conference. You're going to hear that. But they're going to speak on it so quickly and move right on. Because don't nobody want to hear about who shot that man in the back of his head. It seems like there's more focus on her, but they're not focusing on the white citizens or the white neighbors that are surrounding, not just those who have an easement access to their own land, but also other people who don't even live over that way. The Mallorys have said have been using that road to come and taunt them. This is what I'm talking about. I want to give you both sides of the story. Now, initially, there was no other side of the story because the sheriffs weren't saying anything about it. Nobody was saying anything about it. Now they've spoken. Now we have both sides, right? And so you can weigh their side. You can weigh the other side. But if you think that their side is the complete and absolute truth, then I'm sorry, but America done got a grip on your mind because they have a track record for doing exactly what's happening to this family right here. Let's continue on.
Give me some ID. Why did you trespass on my property? What are you doing here?
So at the time that you were doing this, what did you have in your hands?
I did have a gun in my hand.
What type of weapon did you have?
It was a shotgun.
Okay.
And I was like, what are you doing? He ran. I asked for ID because everything is locked here. So why were you on the property? I didn't have no shirt. And I was outside without a shirt on, chasing him because I did not know why he was here, but he ran. I couldn't get his ID. So then when I went down there, I saw his car was sitting there. So I was trying to call the police, but I didn't have a signal. I couldn't get his tag number. But I don't know who he was at all. But he was here.
So did he say anything to you?
It happened so fast. I mean, I was in a state of shock slightly because obviously I have no clothes on and someone's looking through the window, and so I'm like, what the hell is going on?
Okay, so what window was he looking through?
Right there on the shed, there's a window right there.
Right, I see that one on this side, on the south side? Okay.
No, not that one, this one. All the way over here behind this other building, he was looking through the shed window.
Okay, wait, so I see your van, and there's a fifth wheel, and then
here, if you look right here, there's like a white part on the top, you see?
Yeah.
And there's a little area there.
Oh, another shed. Okay,
yes.
I see what you're talking about.
And so he was looking through the window. So obviously, I mean, look at the gate. It says no trespassing. I mean, I'm trying to protect myself, my animals, my property. I did not know. He didn't provide ID. He just started running.
I want to point out something that someone said in the chat here. Someone said, look how fast they got the cops out there to deal with this issue. That is very important to note. Now, again, none of us can sit up here and justify the very obvious lies that Nicole is telling, okay? We can't justify it, but we can explain it that she's probably unnerved. She's freaking out right now. She's on guard. She's triggered. She's all of that, right? But we also have to point out the other sides of this is the fact that they got those cops out there very quickly. You see? Now, how come they can't get them out there this quick? When the Mallorys say that someone is trespassing on their land, someone has done this, someone has killed their animals. As a matter of fact, I believe they said they were accused. Someone said that maybe you poisoned your own dog, maybe you killed your own livestock. They were being accused of those things because I wonder if this is why they didn't want Officer Gerhardt to speak at the press conference. Again, they're going to ask, why can't he speak? Why can't he speak? Because there were some accusations that he was helping these citizens. You're not going to hear a whole lot. Notice, you're going to see a lot with this video. You're going to see a lot with the other interaction where she's going to be screaming about her arm hurting or possibly broke. You're going to see all of this, but there was not a lot of focus on what the neighbors were doing to her and her husband on their land. There's not a lot of focus on that at all. You're going to see this. And so anytime you see this type of press conference and they're not giving that, I really wish that there was more that they could have said about all of these cases, all of these calls. This is what we need to see. What was going on with all of that? And no, we're not really criticizing her, Sharon. I'm just trying to make a point that when she says things, this is why people will look at her story and begin to question her, because they're seeing obvious things. Now, we understand that she may be triggered or bothered or unhappy or whatever. We get all of that. But we as a people, we've got to keep it tight and keep it right when we're dealing with people who will use anything against you. So anyway, let's continue on.
And then what happened when he started running?
He just was running. The dog was chasing after him, and he was running. That was it. And then he got to his car, but obviously I didn't have a shirt on, so I'm walking with the dog. And
that's nothing.
But his car was sitting down here,
Okay.
and I don't know if the call went through when I called 911. But
Gotcha.
it was like a blue.
So at
SUV.
what point did you discharge the weapon?
It did not. That's why I'm kind of confused. I had it and I was pointing it like, hey, give me some ID because I don't know who you are. But that was kind of, and I asked for ID. He didn't provide it. He just started running. My dog was there, but he didn't bite him or anything.
Okay, ma'am, what's your first name?
Nicole.
N-I-C-O-L-E.
C-O-L-E.
Your middle name?
Mallory.
M-A-L-L-E-R-Y.
E-R-Y. Yes.
Last name?
No, last name Mallory. Middle name is Lachey.
To the person who's asking why all of these questions when they have no trespassing signs, when she fired the weapon, that's what brought all of this up. Because she fired the weapon, this is bringing all the questions. And then she says she didn't fire it, but you can hear that she clearly did. So this is why all of this part is coming out like this. Now, the bigger question is, why were they there in the first place? This is because she's been having interactions where she's not that quiet, calm black woman that she's expected to be when she deals with the cops. And so when you speak above a whisper and you have an interaction with them, if you seem intimidating to them, this is what you're going to get. They're going to paint a picture of you. Okay? I'm just trying to say that we have to use wisdom. We have to use wisdom when dealing with these situations. If you fired the weapon, own it. Own it. And just tell the truth. If you were afraid, just own it. Own it. Because denying it is not going to help your situation. Let's continue.
L-A-S-H-A-Y.
L-A-S-H-A-Y. And what's your date of birth? And your ID is out of what state?
Texas.
And this is your property here?
Yes.
And who else is on the property?
No one is here now. It's just me and my animals.
So you and the dog, and what do you have, horses or what?
I have cows, chickens, turkeys. I'm not turkeys. Chickens, laying hens that are outside, my goats, sheep, my pigs.
Gotcha.
And then I have 2 other dogs. And then my
You said 2 other dogs?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, everyone, we did point out that we did point out some things, that the guy was in an unmarked vehicle. They did say that he's just a private citizen, but he was there to serve papers. Okay. That point was pointed out early on in the stream. And so, so again, with him being in an unmarked vehicle, she doesn't know what he's there for. So that needs to be taken into consideration. If he was in an official vehicle, then of course, this would have been just, over the top for her to start firing a weapon. Now, again, also, for those of you who say she didn't, or you didn't hear it, it can be heard. It's in the background, but it can be heard. It's a very loud noise, right? But the issue is this. She fired, obviously, away from him. But apparently you're not allowed to do that, okay? I do want to share a situation that was reported years ago. Some of you all may remember when these two black guys were breaking into a neighbor's house, okay? Breaking into a neighbor's house. And so guy comes out, he sees two black men running away from the house with things that they have stolen. It's in their hands. They're running away. That neighbor... Now, keep in mind, it wasn't his house being broken into. It was his neighbor's house. But that man came out and he shot both of those men dead. He shot both of them dead. And guess what? Law enforcement said that was a justified kill. So, for those who don't like to look at the forest for the trees, there's a lot of stuff going on. Okay? They are not always fair. They said it was a justified kill when a man shot someone who wasn't even trying to break into his house, but his neighbor's house. Now, in his case, he shot at and killed two men. In this case, she fired a weapon. It's very clear that she didn't fire it at him because he would have been hit if she did. So it sounded like what someone in the chat said, that it was probably a warning shot. Okay, but every state is different. Every state is different. Okay, the laws may be different in that area where you can't even fire a warning shot. But the fact of the matter is there does seem to be two sets of rules on the books concerning black people and everybody else. So we need to understand, if you want to have true discernment in a situation, understand the state of mind she was in and the state of mind that they are in. Now, someone says that Colorado has, Abenrin says Colorado has castle doctrine. She has no duty to retreat. Okay, so, retreating is one thing, but firing a weapon is another. So I'm just, all I can say in terms of her firing the weapon, I think telling him you have it should have been enough. Right? Because you don't need to keep giving them stuff to come after you for. All you had to do was say, look, I have a weapon and I'm going to defend myself. That's all you had to do. Okay? That's all you had to do. But again, someone else is talking about the unmarked vehicle. That is a very clear threat. Again, with the property that we had someone do exactly what they experienced, where people would pretend to have their vehicle broken down in front of your property, but really they were there to intimidate. And my husband had to deal with a situation like that. And he knew, he said these men, these two white men had guns on them. And he just started witnessing to them about the Most High. Okay? That's what he started doing. And the Most High just gave him wisdom on what to say. Wisdom on what to say. Anyway, let's finish.
And then my puppy's Great Pyrenees.
Okay. What's a good phone number for you?
Did the person that called, was that the person who trespassed?
So at this point, he's saying that he was a process server or something to that effect, and he had legal documents to serve. I don't know. He didn't tell me who to serve, but
he breached the peace. So I do want to file a complaint now that you're here. He trespassed, and I feel like he was trying to rape me at this point. he didn't provide ID if he was a process
So
server.
let me ask you this. How close in proximity were you to him?
So
Just like if you just estimating yards or feet or something, like were you guys, like was it the space between this fence here or larger?
So I saw his face through the shed. Obviously, I'm startled. I think I'm seeing a ghost. So I didn't have any clothes on.
Gotcha.
So I put my pants on, and then I came outside. He was just walking around, and so he was like over there. But I guess when he saw me, he started coming toward me, and I said, "You need to show me some ID right now. Like, what the fuck are you doing on my property? Like,
Okay.
what the fuck are you?" That's what I said.
Right.
And he was like, I just got some papers, I think he said, or something. And I was like, I don't know who the fuck you are. You trespass on my property. Give me some ID right now.
Okay.
And he just took off running. So I would say probably about like right there, the dog was coming and he just started running. He never provided ID. There was no ID. But I want to file trespass and attempted rape and breaking and entering. I have private property. All of this is locked. When he came out, he jumped the gate to get in.
Okay.
That's trespassing.
Well, exactly. But what we need to figure out, we already know that he didn't have any ill intent, like there was no assault necessarily planned. He said he came to serve legal documents. Now we can't move past the fact that he did go through your gate. Okay? We're not denying any of that. What I'm trying to figure out is at what point did the weapon get discharged, because he's saying that there was a discharge of the weapon in the air.
That did not happen.
Okay.
But
And you have the weapon here?
yes. It is
Okay.
here. But,
So my supervisor is en route to our location. We could try to figure all that out once he gets here, if you're willing to cooperate with us.
I mean, I want to file a complaint. It feels like I'm being
Absolutely. Well,
targeted here,
listen, man.
and-
We're here right now, and we drove here as fast as we could because, we get some
So just
incident.
out of curiosity, when he called, did he say I broke into someone's property? I'm just trying to understand how that conversation went, like what he called for.
No, that's not the conversation. It transpired like I explained it to you, that he came to serve paperwork.
So
And
all the way up there.
Here's the thing.
Okay. I'm
You-
just saying,
you
there's
have-
so much
listen,
stuff
here's the
going
thing.
on, And
Right.
I don't play when it comes to my safety and my security. I had no clothes on. He was looking through the window.
Right.
So to me, that's an attempted assault, attempted rape. You're looking through my window. You're keeping calm or whatever.
Okay.
You had no ID. So at this point, he never provided me any ID to verify whoever he was. He's just walking around my property like he lives here.
No, and listen, I get it, and I'm just trying to gather the facts, okay? Because obviously I wasn't here when everything
Right.
transpired, so I want to get.
On April 21st, 2021, during the investigation of that menacing by Deputy Reed, a search warrant and arrest warrant were obtained for Nicole Mallory and her property. A risk assessment was made regarding the execution of the search warrant, and it was determined the property was to be secured by the SWAT team prior to the execution of the search warrant. This risk assessment includes a review of the property, the criminal activity on the property, the nature of the involved offense, the involvement of weapons, and a complete criminal history review of the suspect. In this case, it was Nicole Mallory. Nicole Mallory was arrested for the menacing of the process server. She was also arrested while SWAT was on scene for an assault on a peace officer stemming from her actions during contact with deputies on scene at the execution of the search warrant. The shotgun used in the menacing case was recovered by investigators. Ms. Mallory is on probation for the menacing incident with the process server and is on a deferred sentence for the assault of our deputy. The following video is of Nicole Mallory being detained with two other individuals during said execution of the search warrant. I will note that Nicole.
Okay, so they are about to show another video of another incident of interaction with cops. And so again, they're using very careful words, menacing. So she's in trouble for menacing the process server. Again, not a whole lot of focus on why they were there in the first place. Okay. There were some neighbors who were saying that her and her husband or whatever had been stalking. Now, again, for those of you who are not familiar with their story, remember there were other people in the community who were saying that they were going to buy that land first, right? And so notice that there is not a lot of focus at all on all of the complaints that the Mallorys have had against neighbors. See, I feel like this whole video press conference thing was an attempt to make them look really bad, to remove any type of credibility that they may have. Because Nicole said some things that she should not have said. If you fired your weapon, some of you all say you think she may have slammed the door. We can't say whether she did or not, okay? But it did sound, I heard a really loud sound. If you did fire your weapon, don't say that you didn't. If he wasn't looking through the window, don't say that he was. You know what I'm saying? If you didn't say, I want to see your ID, don't say that you did. Because nobody is going to look at the past 2 years of harassment that this family has gone through. If they hear one lie, they're going to focus on that. Anything you say can and will be used against you. That's right. Using profanity, it don't help. They'll call you the angry black woman. You have to keep it tight and keep it right, y'all. Keep it right. Understand where we are and who we are dealing with. Here we go.
Mallory is under arrest at this point for the warrant issued by the 4th Judicial District.
On me. I can barely feel my arm. Okay, but I need to see the search warrant.
Okay, you'll get a copy. You'll get a copy.
Go
ahead and step on up.
Now.
Not right now. You're in custody.
I can't even move my arm here.
Ma'am, just use your feet.
My arm is too tight. It needs to be loosened.
You don't need your arm to take a step.
Okay, but it's cutting off my circulation.
Ma'am, step up there, please. Right,
it's cutting off. This needs to be loosened.
Okay, cool. I'll check on it. Can you please have a seat?
No, I need this unloosened because it is cutting off.
Right now?
It's cutting off my circulation. I can't even move my arm here.
Okay.
This one, the other one.
All right, go ahead and turn around. Hey. Komrovsky, you got a key?
No, not me.
Hey, what am I?
What's this about?
You got a key?
Fireman? What's this about?
You got anything on you?
Huh? No. What's this about?
I need to see the search warrant now.
Like I said,
No, I want to see it now. I want to see it now. Then I need to call my lawyer now because I want to see a search warrant now.
We have a search warrant and a arrest warrant.
Let me see it.
No, ma'am, not right now.
I can't believe this shit,
You got a
man.
key? Go ask one of those guys if they have a key. Go ahead and have a seat, sir.
Do I have to?
Yes, sir.
I'm gonna do a quick pat down of you, okay? What's this about? Man, I don't know.
Do you have anything on you that you're not supposed to have?
No.
Any firearms, anything like that?
No.
Okay.
I'm mistaken or something?
Is this a pocket knife right here?
Yeah, it's a box cutter. You know, to open feed bags up with, cut hay bales open with. Just normal stuff a farmer has on him.
I got you, man.
My livestock's in the shed. That's a lock. I hope y'all ain't bust my front gate down, man, because that's bullshit. Like what right do y'all think y'all had to come and tear people's shit up like that? Y'all had a drone, y'all flew a drone. I heard something flying in the air, like y'all saw everything y'all need to see, so why y'all tear my shit up? What was the whole point of that?
So we have a search warrant.
I saw y'all I saw y'all tear people's shit up and y'all ain't find nothing. Ain't like, what the fuck?
Okay. Well, we know what we're looking for right now.
What are you looking for?
Well, I'll let you know later. You'll see that in the search warrant.
Yes, sir. Can you help? Thank you, sir.
Ain't nothing stolen
Go ask
here.
him for a handcuff key. I need one now.
Yes.
Thank you. All right.
Okay, so I want to pause right here real quick. So Mr. Mallory is saying that he heard the drone flying over their property, and he's asking, he says, you got a drone, you can see everything that's going on here. Why y'all tear my stuff up? That was one of the complaints that they had over the past couple of years, that neighbors were tearing down their fence. And it costs money to repair that. And he said it's been done many times. You see? And so these are people who have been just antagonized and intimidated by neighbors, in which the majority of this press conference was used to show you the Mallory's interactions with police. But very little of it was used to point out what they have been going through with their neighbors. Why tear up the man's fence? Good point. Why do all these other things? We're not hearing a whole lot about that. They're just saying, oh, we're investigating. During the times that they're speaking, they tell you they're investigating while at the same time stuff is being destroyed. And again, you're going to hear a very, very little bit about the man. See, don't nobody want to talk about, I heard other people talking about this, but where was your commentary on the man who was shot in the back of his head? The guy who used to work for them. Where's that? We want to focus on the woman or the wife flipping out. I don't understand why we would put, now, again, we've made it very clear that she may have messed things up with that. But that does not nullify all of that other garbage, y'all. Now, I have a question as to who are these other people that are being arrested? And why are they being arrested? All you see is an arrest happening. But they don't even address why all of these other people, it seemed like these were other people who were just there. Do they work there? Or were they visitors, neighbors? Who were they? Why were they being arrested? I would like to see the details about that. Now, if you come out with a smoking gun and say, well, they were being arrested because they were making helicopters to the moon and that's illegal, bring it. We want to see that information. But to just say that you're arresting people and we don't know why, of course, there is no way for anyone to properly analyze this when the police are not saying enough. The charges that we do know about are the stalking, but that's one neighbor against the other. What about the charges of stalking that they had against neighbors who they felt were stalking them? What about those? Have we lost all sense of where we are and who we are dealing with? Let's continue on.
Yes. We have a search warrant. All occupants is out of the front door immediately with nothing in your hands.
I ain't do nothing wrong. I want to make sure y'all don't shoot or kill nothing around here. You know what I'm saying? Because everything is where the fuck it's supposed to be. Like, I'm not understanding that. Like, y'all told my gate up, man. Like, what
I don't have any circulation on this.
2 fingers, and I got a body cam.
I don't have any circulation here. Call
like, where's the sergeant?
person on
Where's
duty
the person that's in charge? You know what I'm saying? Who's in
now,
charge?
because I can't even feel my arm over here. I can't feel nothing. Oh my God, this is fucking cruel. I told you from the beginning the shit was too tight. I fucking can't feel my shoulder. You better give me some fucking medical attention now. I swear to fucking God on everything I fucking love. Give me some fucking medical attention. Give me some fucking medical attention. No! My fucking arm! My fucking arm! I can't fucking feel it! It fucking hurts! My arm! Get the fuck off of me! You fucking feel it! Get off of me! Don't fight me! Get off of me! You better get the fuck off my neck! You better get the fuck off of my neck! Get the fuck off my neck! I can't breathe! I can't breathe!
What do you mean you can't breathe? Stop!
Babe,
stop! Stop!
Babe.
Man, can you hold like, can you?
Oh my God, baby!
You don't have to have a gun. You don't like.
Goes where you but now oh my God, get off of me! My fucking arm!
Stop.
Mom! You broke my arm! Oh my God! You broke my arm! You broke my arm! I can't feel it! Give me medical attention! Right now! Right now! Give me medical attention right now! My fucking arm! My arm! My arm!
Do we
my
want to ask for
arm!
medical?
My arm! Ouch!
That's
Ouch! Ow!
Yeah.
Ow! My fucking arm! Oh my God! Oh my God! You trying to fucking kill me! You fucking choked me! You fucking choked me! Oh my God!
He's been complaining of
My
shoulder pain and
fucking
shoulder
arm!
numbness.
Do you want us to look at your shoulder? Yes!
Okay, then you gotta stop yelling.
Oh my God! They tried to kill me!
Nobody's trying to kill you.
Yes, they did!
Where's your shoulder? Which shoulder?
This one!
Okay, so some are in the chat saying that it sounds like she's having a panic attack. I've seen other threads where people were saying that it sounds like she has PTSD. Others were saying that she's coming undone. I mean, just a number of different things were being said about her state of mind. Okay, all I can say is after 400 plus years of trauma, right? And now you're in a situation where you're not being heard, okay? And you've been going through something for 2 years and you finally get someone to listen to you. It has to be a black news outlet, okay? That's right. She is a veteran. She has fought for this country, okay? And we've heard the stories of numerous veterans who have come back only to be treated like straight up trash, okay? Straight up trash. Now, like I said before, and I continue to say, y'all, she should not have allowed her mouth to say the things that it said that were not truthful, because it makes it less likely that people will sympathize with her in this pain that she's going through. Now, let me tell y'all something. She's saying that her arm is hurting. She's screaming, she's yelling out, she's doing all of that. But a lot of people are not going to look at her as being fed up because some of them don't even know the backstory. They're not going to even, a lot of people probably haven't even heard the Ark Republic story where she's explaining what her and her husband have been going through for 2 years, being stalked and terrorized by white neighbors, right? Like I pointed out to you all, I did an article today. I shared an article where they were saying that racism can make you sick and even cause your death if it goes untreated because of the stress buildup, because of all of the tension, the anxiety. And if you are not a black person, you don't have a reference point for this. If you are a sheltered black person who's only been called blackie or something like that, or had somebody frown at you, some of us have gone through a whole lot more, have had more racial experiences than others. I remember one sister, she said she didn't understand why I talked about race so much until her and her family experienced something. And she said, Sister Deborah, at that moment we were going through this, I can hear your words saying, where or show me your papers, Negro. And no, I'm not talking against her, Deb Moore. I'm making a point for those who try to say we're justifying things. We're not justifying anything. I am just trying to explain that because of her actions, this is going to cause people to deflect. I'm not going to deflect. I continue to reference the fact that these people have gone through hell. Okay? Understand what I'm doing. I'm trying to use wisdom in how I'm dealing with this, because I've seen some people completely shut them down and say that the truth is coming from the other side. I'm not going to do that here. I feel like their story has been tarnished by all of this other rhetoric that has been put out there. They put these videos out there to draw sympathy for the other side and to take sympathy away from this family who have gone through this stuff. I'm not putting her down at all. I'm just saying there were some things that she probably should have left undone because people are using this stuff against her. That's all I'm saying. So let's continue on, family.
All right, okay. Hold on. It's so bad. Oh my God! You guys can. Oh my God! Are you gonna let them check your shoulder? Yes! All right. Okay. Then they one of them can come in here and see if they can check your shoulder, all right? Oh my God! Oh my God! He fucking trying to shoot me and kill me! You fucking pig!
One of the complaints made by Nicole Mallory is that she was injured while being detained and denied any medical care. As you can clearly see, her restraints were checked for proper fit, tightness, and double locked at least once during her detention. In addition, Nicole Mallory was afforded the opportunity to be seen by paramedics from the Colorado Springs Fire Department Tactical Emergency Medical Unit while still at the property. She was also taken to the hospital for a medical clearance prior to being booked into jail. The following video is of Nicole Mallory being transferred to an ambulance.
I want to make another point, y'all. It is very obvious that this woman was in a great deal of pain. That just kind of went over some people's head. Now, whether or not her arm broke or not, when you're experiencing some pain, it is very, very difficult to know what's what because you're in the moment, okay? All she knows is something very uncomfortable is going on. We've heard many cases where they've strong-armed our people. Remember, I don't know if you all remember or remember the case of the woman who was parked kind of like over a line. She misparked. She said she was running in real quick. Cops saw her mispark and he escalated that thing something terrible. And this woman, he grabbed her so angrily, threw her to the ground, messed her up so bad, had her arms behind her back, and he dislocated her shoulder. I don't want our people to lose sight, especially those of you who have sided with these other people. Just period. Don't lose sight of the fact that this stuff has been happening for so long. So long that people can get frustrated. I've even heard white people say they don't understand how we can continue to go through this stuff for so long that they would have been snapped. We've heard that. You see, and some of our people act like they just have, no understanding of what's happening in this. They'll say, well, I know that there's racism. I know that there's this and that. But your actions don't show that you even care about these things. It is very clear that that woman, whether her arm was broken or not, she was probably feeling like it was to that point. And it was obvious she was in a great deal of pain. Okay? So who are we to say what she's feeling? That sounds very painful to me. Here we go.
She can be transported to the hospital for that medical clearance.
You want to pull her out so she can walk back here? You guys can park here, we'll walk her.
In the ambulance, if you can step down.
Okay, real quickly, someone says, did her arm break or was that a lie? Okay, to Hootie, I just want to say this. It's not that it was a lie. We were saying that in that moment that she was going through this, she was in a great deal of pain. Now, at that moment, it may have felt like to her that her arm was being broken. So it's not that she was trying to lie in that particular moment. There were other things that she did lie about. But in that moment, it may have felt like her arm was being broken at that time. She said it hurt so bad. So she may have thought it was broken at that time, but it was just severely injured at that point. Okay.
You can step down. Can you step down? Okay, ma'am. We need you to step down. Why did you put me in here? The fucking arm is broken. You refused medical and you stepped up into the vehicle on your own. We're asking you now to step down. If you can go ahead and step down. It's fucking broke my arm. We're gonna get you checked out by medical. It fucking broke my arm. It fucking broke my arm. Can you slap this other leg around? Okay. We're gonna get... If you can go ahead and step down, there's a step.
Touch your jacket.
Okay. All right. We're right here in case you need to step down. We'll help brace your steps. We'll help you brace your steps to get to the cot. That fucking pig! You fucking broke my arm! The fucking pig!
With those cuffs. I know you guys did a lot of work with those. Yeah, it's just going to be so much better.
Absolutely. That key?
I just don't have a...
I got it.
I know, ma'am. I'm going to get you warm, okay?
So I know we're going to have you and one of the seniors follow her to
Wherever they're going?
yeah, and then after that, book her.
Gotcha.
I'll take a copy of your warrant, Scott, and I'll do the search.
Oh, okay. The paperwork is right on my desk.
We're going to turn you, okay, and get you comfortable. I appreciate it. Sorry.
She's still cuffed on the left arm.
She's saying that it's this arm.
I know. I'm just saying she still has cuff on the
Oh,
arm.
gotcha.
I got this.
Can we turn you? Yeah, I know.
Watch things.
I don't know. She has something on. Oh, she has a belt. Back brace or something. Okay.
During her arrest, Nicole Mallory was confrontational, profane, and non-compliant. She assaulted a deputy and used racially derogatory statements against the arresting deputy, Michelle Reed, who is an African-American female and assigned to the Rural Enforcement and Outreach Unit. She made numerous accusations of bias and was confrontational with caregivers at the hospital. We cannot show you several excerpts from Nicole Mallory at the hospital in order to protect her HIPAA privacy rights. After she refused medical care, she was transported to the jail where she was booked in. I will now show you the recording of Deputy Reed interacting with Nicole Mallory during the booking process.
Okay, so there's some very calm wording there, some very strategic wording. Okay, they're trying to protect her HIPAA rights, y'all. They want to protect her HIPAA rights. They can't show you everything because they need to protect her. Okay? She needs to be protected. She used some racial slurs against the other black lady. I wish they can please tell us what those slurs were. The assault on the officer, I wish they can show us that. We've seen before, in all realness, y'all, we've seen where if you snatch, I don't know specifically what they're saying this assault was, but I've seen where if you snatch your arm away from them, they consider that to be assault as well. Anything you say, can, or do will be used against you. That's all I'm trying to say here. Continue.
At the jail.
I don't want to do that.
Okay, 5 female deputies plus these 2 fellas. I'm staying out here. That's fine. Okay. Yeah. These guys are clear. We'll take care of it.
Good job. There you go. All right. I'm going to take this cuff off of you, okay? Okay. Need you to relax your arms. There you go.
Girl, let's not hold the chain. Don't hold the chain. Please, thank you.
Oh, well, then my fingers went up. Thank you. Ow. There we go.
Someone asked if they can please address the animals being killed and all the other things that happened with this whole incident. As I pointed out early on in the broadcast, a lot of that stuff was not thoroughly addressed at all. It was very briefly mentioned, but there was not a lot of talk about that. Not a lot of talk about the farmhand who lost his life having been shot in the back of the head. All of this focus was put on the behavior of Nicole Mallory, the arrest and all that kind of stuff. When people see arrest, they see a woman screaming, they see them cussing, they see all of this kind of stuff. Then all of a sudden, all of the attention goes off of what you were trying to get people to see. Someone pointed out that they have scheduled a some type of rally in a few days, but they wanted to release this. Someone pointed out in the chat that they released this before that because they don't want you to have any sympathy for these people. Now, I'm not going to sit up here and say that nothing was done wrong on their parts, but a lot of what they've done, you have to admit, if you are honest with yourself, it is a response, a direct response to how they have been treated for the past 2 years. I don't know how many times I've said that in this broadcast. I continue to see comments in there where some people just don't even want to deal with that. But they are responding to how they've been treated over the past couple of years, right? And that reference to that series, that mini-series, Them, that family had enough because they were going through so much at the hands of their white neighbors trying to intimidate them, frighten them, threaten their lives, all kinds of things. Could you stand up to the type of situation they were put in? Again, no condoning of wrong, illegal behavior, but what about the illegal things that happened to them? What about the fact that they have been terrorized? Hardly anything talked about that in this press conference. Barely a mention. Continue.
Oh, absolutely. Sorry.
Can you hand me a pair of those gloves?
There you go, my dear. Here you go.
Thank you. You need some help with your necklace, ma'am? Okay. The ring removed as well?
No, we can't, so
If you're not able to take it off, they'll cut it off.
and I would.
Why do you have to be so hyper aggressive with me, black lady? I don't understand it. Okay,
Let me just see your name real
Jesus
quick.
Christ. You did enough to me. God, still Negro at his finest.
Wow, that came off quite easily.
Oh, you always have something to say, Miss Field Negro. Over there and worship your masters.
Sorry, not trying to hurt you, almost got it off.
Uh,
There we go, and then the front dress has to come off too.
I had this on for Ramadan.
You can't stay on them. Okay. Move forward. Okay.
Is there something else in the back? I thought I saw some.
It's nothing in my hair at
Yeah,
all.
we have
Don't
to-
touch me. Please don't let her touch
Okay.
me. She's already
Okay.
punched me.
Okay.
Do not touch me.
She's
Hey.
not here, me, I'm just gonna look, okay?
Okay, that's fine. But this Field Negro, don't touch me.
Real quickly, I want to point out to everyone that it was said, you know, in the Ark Republic, they were very thorough with the Mallory's account of things. I'm glad we had their account because many times we only get the officer's side of the story. We don't typically get this side, right? So they were able to detail all of the horrific things that happened to them, right? Some of you don't remember or didn't know that these people have been unable to sleep. They've even talked about them having difficulty sleeping because they don't know who's lurking about on their land. They have alleged that people have disabled their cameras with some type of laser, military laser technique. They've talked about people ripping their fence down, destroying their fences. And so when you're sleeping at night, it's difficult to sleep if you don't know who's lurking on your land. Right? Keep that in mind. Those who only want to focus on the negative of this family, they have people who have been lurking on their land. They have accused people of stalking them as well. But we are only hearing about them stalking neighbors because of that access road, that easement. Keep in mind, y'all, that easement is on their property. The easement is on the Mallory's property. Now, people who own land that's landlocked by that easement or by their property, they have a right to be on that land as per legal access to get to their own land. But they, again, were saying that other people were coming on that land just to get close enough to taunt them. Keep that in mind. Don't just sit back and listen to what the news conference says. They just gave us all of this video footage of her interactions with police. But where is all of the talk of what their neighbors were doing to terrorize them? And you're going to see as we wrap this up towards the end, in which we're coming up on the end, you're going to see where when one of the news people asked them, one of the reporters asked them about that Officer Gerhardt that the husband was speaking about. Oh, he's not available. He's not going to be speaking. If you need to ask anything, ask me. Continue.
On April 27th, 2021, disputes over the easements begin with Nicole Mallory calling in a complaint that a neighbor is grazing animals on her land. The neighbor was Teresa Clark. The complaint was Teresa Clark was grazing animals in the easement. This begins the repeated disputes over property lines, access, and boundaries. On May 11th, 2021, Nicole and Courtney Mallory called in to report an unidentified male trespassing on their property. Deputies were able to locate the male, who was suffering from a medical episode to include exhaustion, disorientation, and trouble maintaining his balance. There were significant concerns for his welfare, and he was transported to the hospital via AMR. On May 24th, May 14th, 2021,
Okay, I want to address that. So they said that somebody wandered off and he was trespassing on their land. So they were able to find the guy. So you mean to tell me he was out in the middle of nowhere? Somebody got 1,000 acres of land. How do you, having a medical emergency, just wander off onto somebody's land? I'm having a hard time with that one. But I bet there's some of our people who just bought that hook, line, and sinker. That sound perfectly fine to them. Perfectly fine. So he that sick and he that messed up to where he was able to wobble onto 1,000 acres of land. Where was he coming from, y'all? Why did he find his way to their property? Now, I'm going to tell y'all about a situation I've shared this many years ago. But there was a white man who was at our daughter's bedroom window. They ran and said, "Mommy, there's a man at the window." And by the time my husband got there, he was still on our property. He was still on our property looking through the window. Guess what, y'all? It was clear he was drunk, but he was understanding enough to go to our daughter's bedroom window. Our neighbor, he used to sit on their porch across the street, watching our daughters as they played in the yard. This is where we used to live. But he was okay enough to look through their window, and he was still on our property. My husband called the police. They got there. They removed this guy. When our neighbor across the street, which was a black man, found out that this white man was looking through our daughter's bedroom window, he was so upset because he didn't know and he didn't condone that mess. He was so upset. When my husband and my son went over there, they saw him over there again after he had gotten out of jail because they picked him up that night and he was back out the next day. But he was back over there again. My husband and my son went over there and they got in this man's face. And the black neighbor heard about this. He says, "You were looking through their property, looking through their window?" And he was like, "Man, you gonna listen to what this man got to say," because my husband was biting off at him, and he told him if he caught him on our property again. Okay, I'm gonna just leave it right there. But anyway, that black neighbor of ours, he got on that man too and told him to stay the heck off of our property. And he, So, this whole thing about these cops saying that this man had a medical emergency, I'm just not buying the fact that he found his way to their land. Their land. Why didn't he wander off onto one of those other properties? Why these people who were already going through some things? All of this sounds very strange to me. So let me see. Were the officers expecting the Mallorys to help this man who wandered off onto their property, not knowing what his intentions are? Was it expected of them? They called the cops. They said, "Look, this strange man." So this is what they were dealing with. They were dealing with people not just wandering off on their land, but also they said someone grazing on their land, letting their animals graze. Other things, other people driving by, they had reported that people had pointed weapons at them. Come on now, y'all. Anyway, let's finish this thing out. I got to get up from here, y'all.
Courtney Mallory called EPSO dispatch because he was concerned for his safety after the murder of his ranch hand. He requested EPSO patrol check the area to ensure his safety. There was an active investigation into the murder of Donasanio Amaya, and there is a person of interest in this case. Nicole and Courtney Mallory were interviewed in this investigation because the victim did work for them. Several social media sites contain accusations that EPSO Sergeant Ray Gerhart of murdering Donaciano at the Mallory property. At no time during their interview did Nicole or Courtney Mallory express their concern that Sergeant Gerhart murdered the ranch hand. Sergeant Gerhart is in no way a suspect in this investigation. The accusation of his involvement did not arise until after he authored the arrest warrants for Nicole and Courtney Mallory. On August 11th, 2021, Nicole Mallory confronted a father and son on South Loppe Road regarding their alleged trespassing on the Mallory property. The victim was recording at the time of the interaction, and it was determined that the victim was in the public access portion of the roadway. Nicole Mallory allegedly brandished a rifle during the heated exchange. Nicole Mallory was served.
Okay, let me stop right there real quick. So y'all see how he just read a quick statement about the ranch hand that was killed? He read a quick statement. That was it. We're going to read about it, tell you about it. That's it. No explanation, nothing at all. No talk about how that could have made the Mallorys feel, knowing that someone that worked for them in this very, very toxic environment had lost their lives. Of course, you would be unhinged when someone who works for you in this very, very toxic environment lost their life. So they just read the statement and they moved on. Now they want to get back to somebody who feels threatened by the Mallorys. Okay? They're getting, and again, it's about the public access portion of their land. Keep in mind, this is their land, but people can use an easement in a devilish way. It's like, it seems like they're, in my opinion, the easement is supposed to be used to access your land. All this extra stuff they're doing on the easement can be deemed to taunt these people, can be used to taunt them. If you're going to use that easement to get to your land, do that. You are stirring the pot if you want to use it for anything other than that. Okay? Because again, it is on their property. And if you are just hanging around there, you're trying to harass these people. But then you want to say that they are stalking you. That's my take on it. Now, that part was a personal opinion, because you have to know and understand the kind of people that you deal with on a daily basis. Anyway, continuing on.
Released for harassment and child abuse at the office of the sheriff. This case is currently in adjudication. Between August 2021 and September 2022, EPSO
Okay, notice, see how it sounds? They were trying to get them for harassment and child abuse? Because somebody's child just happened to be with them when they were confronting these people that were on their land, right? So they call it child abuse. But they've actually laid hands. Did they actually touch these people's children? Did they do anything to them? But notice the strong language that's being used. This is used to paint such a horrible picture. Are you all getting this? Are you getting this?
Dispatch received numerous calls from the Mallory family, Teresa Clark, and many other residents in the area. Deputies responded both in person and by phone to these calls for service. Numerous cases were taken to include restraining order violations, criminal mischief, and trespass. Teresa Clark was the reporting party on approximately 46 calls for service. Nicole Mallory was the reporting party on approximately 47 calls for service. Courtney Mallory was the reporting party on approximately 11 calls for service. An additional.
So here's the thing. So they have a neighbor. It's like they're having what they call a quote unquote pissing contest. She's called the cops on them over 40 times. They've called the cops on her over 40 times, and the husband 11 times. So it's like they're going back and forth. They're playing games right here, right? So at any time, was that neighbor arrested for anything? Was that neighbor ever arrested for anything? Nobody, to my knowledge, has been arrested for. They say they have a person of interest in the person who worked for them that got shot and killed. Person of interest. What does that even mean? A person of interest. So you have an idea of who could have done this, but that's it. Just a person of interest. And now you're trying to get them for child abuse, and they didn't do anything physically to your child. Your child was just with you when you were having a confrontation with them. Was there any point in which their neighbor, Teresa, was arrested for anything that she's done to them. All right.
9 calls were made by other residents or involved parties in the area. There are also an additional 13 field interview records associated with the involved parties. In late August to early September of 2022, the Miami Yoder School District had to relocate a bus stop at the corner of Truckton Road and South Loppe Road to 1/4 mile east on Truckton Road. This was because Nicole Mallory would routinely sit in her vehicle at the bus stop, preventing a neighbor with whom Nicole Mallory had a protection order against from picking up their children at the stop. Nicole Mallory does not have any children attending Miami Yoder. On September 1st, 2022, deputies took a case for restraining order violation with Nicole Mallory as the victim. Nicole Mallory alleged that Teresa Clark violated a protection order by entering the disputed easement and photographing the surveillance cameras on the Mallory property that were pointed at the Clark household. Teresa Clark was arrested on a warrant issued by EPSO deputies. This case is also in adjudication. On September 13th, 2022,
So I am glad to see that they did arrest her for doing that, entering into their property, taking pictures of their surveillance. I'm glad to see that part. Okay? So again, you can tell that there is a pissing contest going on. That's what they call it, y'all. These people have been harassed for 2 years. This is why any actions you're seeing coming from them, they are at the breaking point. If you have been harassed like this for so long, of course, I wish we can see video of how they dealt with the arrest of Teresa. They're probably saying, well, Teresa, we have to do our job because they caught you. But I wonder if the treatment was the same. Again, this case would not have been known if it wasn't for the Ark Republic. In my opinion, there was an attempt to try to make the Ark Republic seem as if they'd done something wrong by reporting this. For 2 years, it was ignored, so they got their own media to cover this story. And now we are seeing details coming from both sides that show that there was a very, very clear friction in the community. But this is what happens. Like I said, white neighbors are terrorizing them. The cops are mostly trying to defend their position in all of this. But this is why this family is acting this way, because they are being terrorized. You understand what I'm saying? That's the difference. When you live in a situation where somebody done lost their life, you scared to sleep at night, you can be stressed out by all of this. I can imagine that their stress level is off the charts. I can imagine that it is. Notice I said imagine. I can't speak for them specifically as far as what their medical condition is, but I do know that it has been proven that racism can cause sickness. Check that video out, family. I just did that one earlier. I'm going to be wrapping this up real soon. I'm getting to the end, so here we go. We're going to finish this out.
a deputy called Courtney Mallory by phone regarding an alleged restraining order violation where Mr. Mallory was the reporting party. Mr. Mallory also complained that his dog was poisoned. The deputy asked for additional information as well as requested Courtney Mallory take the dog to the veterinarian. Unsatisfied with the conversation, Nicole Mallory contacted a supervisor. During that conversation, the sergeant and Nicole Mallory concluded that Nicole Mallory will call back at a later date that evening with additional information, and with that information, a case would be generated for the poisoning of the dog. We have no record of Nicole Mallory calling back with the requested information. On September 20th, 2022, Sergeant Gerhardt began an investigation into stalking allegations against Nicole and Courtney Mallory after repeated complaints from Teresa Clark. The investigation revealed that Nicole and Courtney Mallory had active surveillance on the Teresa Clark residence. They would routinely arrive in the area within moments to minutes of Teresa Clark going outside of her house. And Nicole and Mallory would taunt Teresa Clark from the property line. Teresa Clark maintained a detailed stalking log, a document provided to her by the website stalkingawareness.org. She also recorded many of these interactions. On November 22nd, 2022, Sergeant Gerhardt's investigation was reviewed by me and the district attorney. An arrest warrant was presented for review and approval to Judge Ankeny with the 4th Judicial District. An arrest warrant was issued for Nicole Mallory, as well as a search warrant for the seizure of 3 surveillance cameras and associated equipment located at the Mallory property. These cameras and motion detectors were more than 1.3 miles from the Mallory homestead, but less than 100 yards from the Clark home. Additional review led the district attorney's office to
What I find interesting about this, they have conflict with someone, and there's this talk about surveillance cameras. Now, if you all remember that series, Them, where these people were, the neighbors were sitting out in front of their property. They were doing all kinds of things. They were literally monitoring their every move, right? So this couple, in fear for their life, with good reason, because of, again, animals dying, farmhand dying, being shot and killed, all of this. Is it illegal for them to have cameras pointing to keep an eye on what's going on with people who they are afraid of, right? And notice he said that Teresa went to some website to find some stalking law. Oh my goodness. So the neighbor went and found some information on a stalking law, and you all arrested them based on this website information she found? Wow. Let's wrap it up.
Courtney Mallory was also implicated in this case. On December 14th, 2022, an arrest warrant was issued for Courtney Mallory. Nicole Mallory turned herself in to the Elbert County Sheriff's Office on December 19th, 2022. Courtney Mallory was arrested by Colorado State Patrol on February 26, 2022 during a traffic stop, and he was booked into the El Paso County Jail. After the arrest of Courtney Mallory, there continues to be numerous additional calls for service, as well as active investigations to include animal cruelty, intimidation of a victim, harassment, and menacing, all in this area. The cases are all active investigations, and I will not be able to comment on them further. I will now open it up to the media for a few questions for Sheriff Roybal and me.
I noted that too. Someone in the chat here says, who was making the calls, right? So he just briefly mentioned that we continue to get calls of animal cruelty and all these kinds of things, right? He didn't really expound on who was making the calls, right? But we do know that the Mallorys talked about, and they actually showed pictures of some of their animals who had been not just killed, but mutilated. Okay, so again, I feel like they wanted to put more focus on themselves, the misconduct of the Mallorys, and less on all of the other stuff that got them all riled up in the first place. Why are they behaving this way? Why are they acting this way? Why are they setting up cameras? Why are they doing all of these things? Why? Why is this stuff happening? Did they just decide to move to that area and just stir up the devil? Or are they responding? Are they responding to some wicked treatment? Are they responding to people who have been treating them a certain way, people who have been stalking them? Are they responding to people who have been taunting and intimidating them?
Yes, ma'am. That is something that I'm considering right now after that initial review. As you can imagine, those number of reports take quite some time, but that is something that I'm not afraid of having.
Prior to that incident with the process server, there's almost no activity in this area. It is relatively concurrent with the Mallorys moving to the property.
So again, he just confessed or admitted, he said before they moved there, they didn't have no incidents, right? So what is the issue here? So it sounds as if he's saying these issues arise when the Mallorys moved there. Could it have something to do with the fact that they didn't want black people there? Let's not forget the fact that some neighbors approached them and said that they were supposed to be buying that land. I would say to you all, read the Ark Republic's article on this as well, because like I said, whenever it's reported from one side, you're not going to get all of the details. It just so happens that we got the Mallory's details first, and so now we can look at both sides and we can see very clearly how a lot is being left out during this press conference. Okay, we can see very clearly that a lot is being left out, and there's more focus put on how she behaved in front of the cops. Okay. A lot is being left out, and there's more focus put on how she...
The process server is a private citizen, and as allowed by law, he was contracted by the person to go out and serve Courtney Mallory. Brandishing a weapon is not necessarily against the law unless you use it in a threatening manner, such as to fire rounds off as the person's trying to flee the property.
Okay, so that's the point at which he spoke about the processor who came to her property. He admitted that he was a private citizen. So there was no way of her knowing what that man's intentions were. As you all saw, there were people who have wandered onto their property before. Okay, he spoke about one guy who they claim had a medical emergency, but he just so happened to land on their property. Okay, so again, the process server was a private citizen who they hired. A process server was a private citizen who they hired, so she had no way of knowing who he was. She had no way of knowing he was there in an official capacity at all. She just reacted, okay? And her reaction was a direct response to what they've already gone through, y'all. If you can't see that, I don't know what to say. And her reaction Keep in mind, the reporters are asking questions, but you can tell from the response of the officers there of what the question was. So that person was asking about the guy that was there, and this next guy, he's going to ask something about Gerhardt, and this is almost finished.
I don't believe Sergeant Gerhardt will be available. Any accusations of misconduct have been investigated. I am hoping, and I'm making myself available to the Mallorys through the Black and Latino Leadership Coalition, and I'm hoping they reach out to me and to address any concerns, allow me that opportunity to address any concerns they have with that neutral party.
Okay, so right there, he just said, I don't believe Gerhardt will be available. I am just hoping that you all will allow me to address your concerns. He's saying allow him to address the concerns because Gerhardt won't be available. Now, you all know that Gerhardt is the one that the husband was saying was actually helping these citizens terrorize him and do other things and deal with this situation. Okay, antagonizing them, intimidating them. I feel that it's very important in all of this, in this press conference. Gerhardt should have been here. He should have been here to have to answer for all of this. But for him to say that Gerhardt won't be available, but any concern should be addressed towards him, that speaks volumes to me.
The information I have available is that there was a civil process from a court order, and that whoever that person was hired him to go serve Courtney Mallory with that civil process. I'm glad you asked that. That easement is a 60-foot wide piece of land that is technically on the Mallory property. However, it is set aside by the county for access to all the landlocked properties back there. There are access gates for several property owners, to include the Mallorys and the Clarks.
Cameras on their own property and being on the easement, which is public property, why would that constitute stalking?
So if you look at statute, you are not allowed to record other individuals on a lengthy basis. And due to the constant surveillance on the Clark property, as well as the use of that surveillance to time their arrival with Ms. Clark, as well as showing up and taunting her, the district attorney as well as a judge agreed that that constitutes a violation. If you go and actually look at Colorado revised statutes, it's very self-explanatory.
Thank you all for joining us today. The case report.
So again, they gave an explanation on the stalking. So it's not like stalking sounds hideous, right? Okay. So it's on their property. It is technically on their property. So they said you're not allowed to film people. So it is not that they were stalking anyone in the terrible sense of the word, but it's made to sound so terrible. This is why they said the woman looked on some website, right? She looked on some website and she found a reason to get them. And so they swooped in real fast on that to get them for stalking. Anyone hearing this, say, man, they're stalking people? And so the question was asked by the reporter, if they're on their land, how is it considered stalking if they are on their own land? Did y'all catch that part? How is it considered stalking? Well, because there is this little thing. Hold on one second. Okay. There is this little thing written somewhere that says that you can't record anybody in length. So it goes back to what I continue to say. Anything you say can and will be used against you. Anything you do can and will be used against you. Even though this wasn't something that was just jumping out at everyone as illegal, someone found it. They found a way to say, see, this is considered stalking, even though they're on their own land. They are not allowed to set up surveillance and to record. Ain't that something? Ain't that something? We're wrapping this up in a moment, family.
Reports will be released by the El Paso County Sheriff's Office via their website at www.epcsheriffsoffice.com. For additional information related to these cases, please reach out to their lead PIO, Lieutenant Deborah Minot, at 719-520-7141. You should have her contact information in your press packets. Thank you all for coming today.
Okay, so this was a rather lengthy, it was only lengthy because of me cutting in, sharing narrative here and there on everything that's been going on. But as you all see, this is a very, very messy situation. And of course, everything possible has been used to paint this couple in a light that is just ridiculous. This is the country we live in. This is the country we live in. And so I wanted to put this out here and share it because, again, there are those who are looking at the Mallorys and their response. They hear the cussing and they hear all this other stuff and the anger and they hear all of this other stuff, and they will use that to try to make it seem like the Mallorys are just the perpetrators in all of this. They are still victims. I don't care how you slice it up, how you dice it up. They are still victims in this. They have been terrorized. They have neighbors who have participated. How come Officer Gerhardt wasn't available? They just said he wasn't available. If you have any other questions, ask me. From their standpoint, they've said that this man has been a part of something that has been used to terrorize them. How come no one is able to hear from him? Okay, so now that you have some clarification on that stalking, oh my goodness, right? Now you also have some clarification on that man that came to their property. Now, I felt like she shouldn't have been saying she doesn't know if he's there to RAPE her. I felt like that was doing too much. But again, these people have been terrorized. They are responding to that. They are responding to the fact that someone that worked for them was dead. And all they can say, all the officials can say is that they have a person of interest, and that's it. So the Mallorys are like, we're afraid for our lives. They verbalized the fact that they are afraid of their lives. They've had people on their property. Again, when it's presented to us, they said the guy wandered onto their property and was having a medical emergency. And we're supposed to say, oh, that's what it was. So that gives him a right to be on the property, huh? And I still have the question, how come he didn't wander off onto somebody else's property? Why was he on their property? They are already experiencing racial intimidation. Why wouldn't they think? Why wouldn't they think that that guy was up to no good? They don't know what to think because this country has a history. This country has a history of dealing with us a certain way, y'all. Y'all know I'm telling the truth. It has invoked fear. They have said that they can't sleep at night. What are they supposed to do with that? Anyway, y'all, I'm done with this. I am done with this. I just wanted to present this because there are others who are talking about this and we're saying that what the cops have said is the truth. Okay, they showed us video of what happened. I see people that have been terrorized. And I see people who have been backed into a corner. But I also wanted to show this as a learning experience for our people, that you always stick with the truth. The truth is always better. Okay? When you start adding all that other stuff that didn't happen to something, our people will be the first to say that you have no credibility. When I say that, I'm not saying that I know what they're going through. Okay? So I'm not against them. I'm just saying you're going to have other people who are going to analyze this, and they are going to say that because of those few things, you've lost credibility. They're going to throw everything else out the window. They're going to pretend like everything else you've gone through no longer matters. That was my whole point in bringing this out in the way that I did. Anyway, thank you all for joining me. We've spent a great deal of time together. Almost 3 hours, family. I am so sorry. I got to get up from here. But thank you all for spending this time with me. But I'm going to go ahead and peel out of here. I love you all. I thank you for your time. And hopefully you can look at this from the correct standpoint. Okay. You can look at both sides. Okay. They've shared their piece now. We've seen the Mallory's piece. Now, just let the chips fall where they may. I still say that we should pray for this family because they are in a tripped out situation right now. They are in a tripped out situation where there have been people who don't feel like nothing's going to happen to them if they intimidate the Mallorys. because they know that we live in a country that's going to be on their side no matter what. That's just what we've seen, y'all. And nobody can deny it. Can't nobody get on here and deny what I just said. This country has been a certain way towards black people, and they continue to be. And they will let people who harm black folk go free. Y'all know it. Y'all know it's the truth. And if you can't accept that truth, then you just fooling your own self. All right, y'all. I'm done with this. Until next time, I'm out.